Good morning, people. Something I want to talk to you about this morning. I would think that it's probably obvious to many of you, but here it is if it hasn't been said already. The sailing world has got a real problem, and the problem is this. There are tons of sailing channels out there and many, many experts out there telling you how to go about getting involved in the sailing lifestyle, but none of them explain how the hell you afford it. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. It isn't easy. It takes a real commitment, and it will be a path, and it will be something you're going to have to commit to for the long haul. Unfortunately, if you were to look at YouTube in particular, you're going to see a lot of very shiny people, some of them with very shiny bosoms, very shiny boats, very shiny this, that, and the other thing, very shiny drones, and fancy cameras and all the rest of it, which you'll note that I don't. I keep my bandwidth pretty close because I'm sitting here talking into a laptop, uploading this to you via cell phone. Minimalist here. There are people out there with lots of magic money that seems to come from nowhere. Interestingly enough, they are the ones that are rewarded by the algorithm, and they get even more magic money. So they don't have to worry too much about affording their sailing habit. It makes it look a lot easier than it really is. Those individuals who are paying for it as they go, on the other hand, have a tendency to not be so well rewarded for their efforts, or tend to have their voice listened to. That's okay. But there's obvious reasons as to why. And the problem with this is that for someone who was new and getting involved in this whole business, there's a erroneous perception about what works. And that is, you get your drone, your shiny boat, your shiny girlfriend, all the film gear, and you do remote work or something of the nature, some kind of content creation or something. And I guess that's worked for the last few years for some. In reality, that's going to be a race to the bottom pretty quick. I would suggest that anything that can be done remotely is about to be automated. If you're really interested in this lifestyle, and perhaps for the long haul in the manner that I suggest in seasteading, you're going to have to revert to going after it in kind of an old school way, which is pay as you go with the necessary skills that are valuable on the waterfront, and you will do it person to person, not remotely, and not through pretending to be one on TV. Okay? I mean, certainly I've had a internet presence, but it's never been one that has been remotely lucrative. It has opened some doors for person-to-person work. It has helped me as a boat builder and a shipwright, of course, here and there. But in terms of revenue being generated by the content, no. I mean, it's just the nature of content in general anyway. If it's not commercial, it won't be seen. If it is commercial, it'll be plagiarized by someone with a shinier profile than you. So, doesn't work good for many unless you're incredibly photogenic and have a lot of time and effort to throw at this stuff. I don't recommend it. However, there are other ways of going about it, and in this series I'd like to help you learn the techniques by which I've been able to afford this lifestyle for myself, because I'm sure that any skilled, enterprising person can do the same. It might be tougher in the future than it was in the past, but it's still doable, and you'll succeed if you try. Okay, so where to start? If I were to muse through the last 30 years of doing this and the experience of seeing people that have done it successfully as opposed to those that have not, and the rest, and if I were to say that there was any one thing that was necessary to have success in this game, I would say it was this. It doesn't have anything to do with about size of the boat per se, or what kind of boat per se, or where your destinations are, or any of the rest of it. But rather this: have a concrete, actionable, short-term plan that you have a high probability of succeeding in. Okay? That's not, I'm going to refurbish the boat and sail around the world. Not something like that. It's not that me and my girlfriend, who have never done any sailing at all, are going to leave for Mexico and spend 2 years down there. Okay? None of that. You might succeed with that, but that is so far out for somebody who's new to the lifestyle that you're just a recipe for disaster. You don't know what it is you don't know. You haven't got the experience to even discover what it is you don't know. No, you have to start with something that is simple and actionable. And for most people, I would suggest it's something like this. For 3 years, after making the purchase of your boat, understand that you're going to find tons of stuff that's wrong with it, tons of things that you don't know how to do, tons of things you wish you knew but no one taught you. You need to have a trial period and a base of operations to come back to that is reliable, where you can keep your tools and things that you may need to find employment and all the rest, at least for a period of time, so that you can go out, make mistakes, and recover from them. If you make the mistake of just throwing caution to the wind and buying some old piece of crap boat and sailing off into the Caribbean, you're probably going to succeed with that until you get somewhere where it's very expensive and parts are hard to come by and you don't speak the language, and then you're going to need to do a major overhaul of something. And it's going to be well above your ability or your financial means to take care of. And you'll end up probably doing some goofy GoFundMe, taking pictures of yourself, putting them on YouTube, having a disaster, hoping that solves it. But unlikely that you're going to come up with the real money that it really requires to do an overhaul, so you will sell the boat for peanuts and give up. No, have an achievable goal, okay, and a timeline, so you can transition into the lifestyle, you can discover what it is you don't know, you can get the skills that you don't know you need to have, you can get comfortable with the whole thing. If you've made mistakes, you can recover from them. A base of operations, preferably in a large city where you have access to tools, support, employment, and the rest. Of course, you want to spend as much time away from the dock actually doing the thing as possible. Ideally, you would not be working any more than part-time or seasonally, so you can actually get some time on the water. You got to do both, right? But the mistake that you see so many people make, because they're emulating those individuals with magic money that comes from nowhere, is to focus so much on this fantasy of sailing off around the world and just living free and easy. It isn't free and easy, right? I mean, especially because you're going to really poor countries where a lot of times everybody else is poor. I'll tell you what, poor countries are poor because it isn't free and easy to live there. You're going to need to have real skills, real reliance, and all the rest, and have different way of approaching everything, different habits, expectations, and all. It takes time to do that. So I would really suggest committing to a 3-year plan at least. Save some money, get some skills under your belt that are relevant anywhere. Make sure that you've chased out all the problems in your new boat, and go have some disasters someplace where you can come home with your tail between your legs and order a pizza or something and make yourself feel better, because things happen in the real world, and what you want to make sure is that things that happen to you are recoverable. And if you just jump in and get in over your head, they may not be. So best advice, start slow, 3-year plan, move by degrees. Don't expect massive, massive, massive expeditions initially. Learn what you need to know, baby steps. You'll be so much further ahead. And you're going to discover that this is easier than you think, and there's a reason for that. The magic money from the sky people generally are not very good at keeping their own boats together because they've never had to learn to do it. Like, I'm an old enough guy now that I grew up in a culture of boating that no longer exists, where people really took extreme um, pleasure, in fact, in trying to have this kind of universal competency that was expected of a seafarer. And most everybody really knew how to do most everything on their boat. And that is not the modern yachtsman who comes from tremendous privilege and has a tendency to hire everything out. It's just that you don't have to get very far afield, and there's no one to hire but potentially you, and there you are, with your tools and with your expertise and with your experience. You'll find that your clientele goes with you as you go. So of the kinds of things you want to learn to do the kinds of things that your typical magic money from the sky person who has bought themselves into the seafaring lifestyle will need to have done for them, which you are going to find, which is almost everything, right? And you will find that there is basically endless demand for it. It's a good thing not everybody's super competent, really. I mean, it's easy to cuss at these people and they can be annoying, but if you think of them as customers rather than problems, it can change your attitude pretty significantly, right? And of the people that I know who have been successful in doing this is the kind of work that they do. There's obviously the stuff that you would expect, you know, like your sail making or your diesel repair or electronics repair or any of that kind of stuff. But I have also known people who have done very well, even better, by being cosmetologists and being hairdressers and stuff of that nature that caters to the full package of people going around the world that they find themselves in over their head, and they just like to get a haircut, and they don't speak the language, and they're terrified, and they're happy to hire somebody from their own culture to take care of it for them. All right? Not that hard to do. So over the next 3 years, and since you're going to have to learn to do these things for yourself anyhow, because you won't be able to afford to hire anybody else to do them for you, learn to do them. And you will have the necessary skill set that it takes eventually to go anywhere in the world you'd like to go. But you might also find, after having 3 years of experience and having your stuff together and knowing something about how to do these things and how to live your life, you might not need to engage in the fantasy of sailing off around the world. You might find that some place like the coast of British Columbia is adequate to your needs of having all the adventure you might possibly like, and you would stay there forever. And it would be comfortable for you and be easy for you, and you would have both a decent income and reliable customer base and a business, as well as basically getting all the time on the water that you need to have. Who knows how that's going to work out? Main thing is have an actual plan, something like 3 years. Make sure you know all the things that you need to know before you permanently go anywhere. You might find that once you get to the point where you have the ability to permanently go anywhere, that you don't have any interest in permanently going anywhere. That's a success in itself. In the short term, the base of operations is essential to success, so plan on it and have it. Cheers, people. Episode 1.